Welcome everyone to Half History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and since I have made numerous videos about commanders' thoughts on the Battle of Gettysburg, I wanted to highlight probably the most clamored for, Lee's thoughts on the Battle of Gettysburg. I will be reading his official report to President Jefferson Davis in 3 parts, one for each day of the battle. Hill's corps was accordingly ordered to move toward Cashtown on the 29th and Longstreet to follow the next day, leaving Pickett's division at Chambersburg to guard the rear until relieved by Imboden. General Ewell was recalled from Carlisle and directed to join the army at Cashtown or Gettysburg as circumstances might require. The advance of the enemy to the latter place was unknown, and the weather being inclement, the march was conducted with a view to the comfort of the troops. Heath's division reached Cashtown on the 29th, and the following morning Pettigrew's brigade, sent by General Heath to procure supplies at Gettysburg, found it occupied by the enemy. Being ignorant of the extent of his force, General Pettigrew was unwilling to hazard an attack with his single brigade and returned to Cashtown. General Hill arrived with Pender's division in the evening, and the following morning, July 1st, advanced with these 2 divisions, accompanied by Pegram's and McIntosh's battalions of artillery to ascertain the strength of the enemy, whose force was supposed to consist chiefly of cavalry. The leading division under General Heath found the enemy's vedettes about 3 miles west of Gettysburg, and continued to advance until within a mile of the town, when 2 brigades were sent forward to reconnoiter. They drove in the advance of the enemy very gallantly, but subsequently encountered large superior numbers and were compelled to retire with loss, Brigadier General Archer commanding one of the brigades being taken prisoner. General Heath then prepared for action, and as soon as Pender arrived to support him, was ordered by General Hill to advance. The artillery was placed in position, and the engagement opened with vigor. General Heath pressed the enemy steadily back, breaking his first and second lines and attacking his third with great resolution. About 2:30 p.m., the advance of General Ewell's corps, consisting of Rhodes' division with Carter's battalion of artillery, arrived by the Middletown Road, and forming on Heath's left, nearly at right angles with his line, became warmly engaged with fresh numbers of the enemy. Heath's troops, having suffered heavily in their protracted contest with a superior force, were relieved by Pender's and Early. Coming up by the Heidelberg Road soon afterward, took position on the left of Rhodes when a general advance was made. The enemy gave way on all sides and was driven through Gettysburg with great loss. Major General Reynolds, who was in command, was killed. More than 5,000 prisoners, exclusive of a large number of wounded, 3 pieces of artillery, and several colors were captured. Among the prisoners were 2 brigadier generals, one of whom was badly wounded. Our own loss was heavy, including a number of officers, among whom were Major General Heath, Slightly, and Brigadier General Scales of Pender's division severely wounded. The enemy retired to a range of hills south of Gettysburg, where he displayed a strong force of infantry and artillery. It was ascertained from the prisoners that he had been engaged with 2 corps of the army formerly commanded by General Hooker, and that the remainder of that army under General Meade was approaching Gettysburg. Without information as to its proximity, the strong position which the enemy had assumed could not be attacked without danger of exposing the 4 divisions present, already weakened and exhausted by a long and bloody struggle, to overwhelming numbers of fresh troops. General Ewell was therefore instructed to carry the hill occupied by the enemy if he found it practicable, but to avoid a general engagement until the arrival of the other divisions of the army, which were ordered to hasten forward. He decided to await Johnson's division, which had marched from Carlisle by the road west of the mountains to guard the trains of his corps, and consequently did not reach Gettysburg until a late hour. In the meantime, the enemy occupied the point which General Ewell designed to seize, but in what force could not be ascertained owing to the darkness. An intercepted dispatch showed that another corps had halted that afternoon 4 miles from Gettysburg. Under these circumstances, it was decided not to attack until the arrival of Longstreet, 2 of whose division, those of Hood and McLaws, encamped about 4 miles in the rear during the night. Anderson's division of Hill's corps came up after the engagement. It had not been intended to deliver a general battle so far from our base unless attacked, but coming unexpectedly upon the whole Federal army, to withdraw through the mountains with our extensive trains would have been difficult and dangerous. At the same time, we were unable to await an attack, as the country was unfavorable for collecting supplies in the presence of the enemy, who could strain our foraging parties by holding the mountain passes with local and other troops. A battle had, therefore, become in measure unavoidable, and the success already gained gave hope of a favorable issue. The enemy occupied a strong position with his right upon two commanding elevations adjacent to each other, one southeast and the other known as Cemetery Hill, immediately south of the town, which lay at its base. His line extended thence upon the high ground along the Emmitsburg Road, with a steep ridge in rear, which was also occupied. This ridge was difficult of ascent, particularly the two hills above mentioned as forming its northern extremity, and a third at the other end on which the enemy's left rested. Numerous stone and rail fences along the slope served to afford protection to his troops and impede our advance. In his front the ground was undulating and generally open for about 3/4 of a mile. General Ewell's corps constituted our left, Johnson's division being opposite the height adjoining Cemetery Hill, Early's in the center, in front of the north face of the latter, and Rhodes upon his right. Hill's corps faced the west side of Cemetery Hill and extended nearly parallel to the Emmitsburg Road, making an angle with Ewell's. Pender's division formed his left, Anderson's his right, Heath's under Brigadier General Pettigrew being in reserve. His artillery under Colonel Walker was posted in eligible positions along his line.